Hello and welcome to another standard video here in the preview event for Ninja Turtles. Today we're checking out this blue-black sneaky mill deck that's trying to combo people out with a new Kitsune Technique, normally a 6-mana instant that can mill half of the opponent's library rounded up, an effect we've seen before, but we haven't seen it with a sneak cost of just 1 and a blue. Sneaking is similar to ninjutsu. We get to return an unblocked attacker back to hand in order to cast this on the cheap. The main difference is that we're still casting the spell, so it can still be countered. But that means we can potentially mill half of the opponent's library as early as turn 2 if we can set it up with a 1-mana flyer, for instance. And then all that's left to do is mill the opponent out completely using a River Churn Monument, which we can exhaust, milling the opponent equal to the number of cards already in their graveyard. So then we can potentially mill the opponent out as early as turn 4, and then if our opponent draws from an empty library, they lose the game. So that's the 2-card combo that we're trying to assemble, and then we've got a whole host of these sneak cards that we can cast at a discount if we can return an unblocked attacker back to hand. So to make that work, we have 12 1-mana flyers, and they all provide some sort of value when they enter the battlefield, so we don't mind picking them back up and replaying them. In the case of Spyglass Siren, we get another map token. The new Dream Beavers lets us drain the opponent for 1 and gain a life, while also getting to scry 1, so that can dig towards our missing combo pieces. And the Fairy Dream Thief lets us surveil 1 instead, and can also maybe exile it from our graveyard to draw an extra card at the cost of a life, so that can occasionally come in handy. So these 12 1-drops can enable our various sneak cards, which include Donatello's Technique, just a single blue to sneak this to draw 2 cards, so that's pretty efficient, especially if we get additional value from replaying our flyer afterwards. And then there's Shredder's Technique as a removal spell, can either destroy creatures or enchantments. If we destroy an enchantment, we lose 2 life. And then we also have Splinter's Technique, which is essentially a 2-mana tutor effect, letting us search for any card and put it into our hand. So this can find our Monument or Kitsune's Technique if we still need it. And then rounding out the deck, there's the Requiting Hex as a cheap removal spell, can occasionally blight to gain 2 life. And then Stock Up, another way to dig towards whatever we're missing, can also just help us hit additional land drops. Since we are playing a relatively low land count, we essentially only need 4 mana to eventually exhaust the Monument, and 22 lands plus all these Scry and Surveil effects will usually suffice. And then plenty of blue-black dual lands for mana fixing to make sure we have both colors as early as possible. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw with 2 enablers, 2 sneak cards and a stock up. I'll try it. Start with a Siren. Opponent Abzan colors. So not sure yet what to make of it. I'll draw 2 and then play Dream Thief. Since the Surveil's more valuable than an extra map. And probably don't need another Hex. My opponent will now Bitter Triumph. They don't want us sneaking around. At least Dream Thief can still draw from the graveyard. So, could Stock Up, could Siren, could also hardcast a Technique. I think Stock Up maybe makes the most sense in the face of open mana, which could represent more removal. And then look for one of our mill effects. Oh, we found both. Could also pick up a Siren to enable Sneak, but we have 1 in hand. Cash grab. So it is some sort of creature combo. Gotta discard 1 to hand size. Probably don't need Splinter's Technique anymore. Don't think our opponent's playing discard effects. Opponent discarding the Cloning of Shredder. Okay, so that's their big finish. You have to be careful if they are using the graveyards to their advantage. Milling them could backfire. And Summon Bahamut can also be an answer to the Monument, so only want to play it once we're ready to exhaust. I guess I can play a bunch of Sirens and go exploring to hit more land drops. Say no to the technique. Speaker attacks. And Yuna can reanimate the cloning of Shredder. Makes sense. Get another speaker, can discard Bahamut, keep the chain going. So next turn they get another speaker, and they'll use Yuna to get back Bahamut. I mean, at this point, I may as well mill half of their deck. And then I'm just looking for one more land, basically. So I can exhaust Monument in one go. Could also take out Yuna, but they have a backup. So that doesn't seem particularly useful. So they are running Smuggler Surprise as well. Okay, and then run out a few more flyers. Surveil looking for land. If we draw it, Monument exhaust this game. If not, hopefully we'll have another turn. Opponent grabbing the Future Shark can destroy 3 creatures. Yuna triggers. And gets the cloning of Shredder once again. And get a Bahamut. Did not draw the lanes. Alright, that's rough. But I can hardcast Technique. Mana value is still 9, so Requiting Hex is not gonna work. I guess it's also an enchantment, so I'm gonna lose 2 down to 9. And then what's my plan from there? I need a blocker back to make sure I don't die. But they can remove it once again. So attack with a Dream Thief. And then I think we Shredder's Technique Yuna. And then I can replay Dream Thief. The alternative was attacking with both and then using Donatello's Technique to draw. This leaves me with an extra blocker. Alright, need the land here. Bahamut is back. And I'm not gonna get another turn here. A last chance. And we might have gotten there. And we got there. Awesome. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, missing our mill effects, but we have a few ways to maybe find them between the Surveil and the Stock Up. Turn 1 Siren. Can maybe explore already. And then play Dream Thief. So we've got lands aplenty. Requiting Hex against a green deck. Yeah, I think I'll keep it. It's cheap interaction. We're gonna spend 3 mana to draw some cards. I see weapons manufacturing, so more of an artifact sacrifice deck. So probably not the best matchup for Hex. Found Splinter's Technique and another Siren. So 3 colors, a Legion Extruder can answer 1 creature, make a munitions, and then the Extruder can sack the munitions to deal 2 more. Did find the monument, so this is my chance to Technique and get the other Technique and then replay both creatures, hoping one of them survives, because they could potentially answer both. Although we might have enough mana to just cast this for 6. And Dream Beavers may not be better than a land at this point, because if they are gonna keep removing my stuff over and over, just hitting land drops might be more useful. So they have the Extruder, do they have the land to go with it? They do. So yeah, I'm not gonna get to sneak this game. So glad I didn't keep the beavers. So yeah, now what? Play monuments. Or I could draw with a Dream Thief, try and hit a land drop, and then still Hex. Sure. Found the land I was looking for. Should Hex now before they can sack it again to their Extruders. So I'll need 2 turns, 1 to mill and 1 to exhaust. And there's not a whole lot of interaction that can stop us. Although Specialist can maybe burn us out. I'm gonna have to take 2. So we'll see what happens. This is an instant. 4 damage plus an attack from a 3/3. And they can still use Extruder after they have an empty library, before they draw from an empty library. So that could be more damage. Pizza draws a card. Yeah, I think we're gonna be just a little bit too late with the Extruders being able to activate in their upkeep. Although they only have 1 munitions. But Specialist still triggers. So that's going to be 4 damage. Plus maybe another 4, so yeah, it's possible we fall to 1. So no cards in library, can have a look while they figure it out. So we're at 3, and then 1 Extruder activation left. Or they can sack a lander. And there we go, 1 life, incredibly close. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. I don't think I want to keep a hand with just a bunch of 1 mana flyers, even though we could occasionally win with damage. Now we've got all the mill combo pieces, just missing the creatures. So if I could have a mix of the 2 hands we've opened with so far, it would have been decent. I guess I can still try it. I can get rid of the Technique since we already have the 2 cards we need. And then stock up, hopefully with a third lane, can either find more lanes or some enablers. Alright, so already have to make a tough choice. I kind of like Dream Thief, let them keep the elves. Of course, look for lanes, and then next turn I might be able to Technique plus Hex. So they've got 3 mana. And a Hammer Skull, so dinosaurs, got it. Okay, well, still gonna try this. It is indeed dinosaurs, with a new Triceraton commander. Okay, and then don't really need Dream Thief other than maybe Chumping Hammer Skull next turn. Take out the elves to slow them down. Next turn Monument Dream Thief, look for lane 4, and then hopefully mill them out. Do they have any artifact removal that we can see? Maybe a Sheltered by Ghosts. And we only milled 1 copy, so they could definitely have one in hand. Alright, opponent runs out to commander. And another elves. So, yeah, I think I just gotta hope they don't have a Sheltered, but I can see if I have a land coming up. Because, yeah, the alternative of stock up, I don't think it's realistic for me to wait until I have 6 mana to play End Exhaust. There's no way I can survive long enough. Even though stock up can find a land, play a chum blocker for Hammer Skull. They could also Sheltered by Ghosts a blocker at the end of the day. So let's hope for a land on top. And now I just gotta cross my fingers that they don't have a Sheltered by Ghosts. Hatcher I can beat. Jump Hammer Skull. Still take a beating, but not enough for lethal. And yeah, our little monument that could. GG's. And we got there. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have a lot of sneaky enablers, 1 sneak card. Still need to find one of our mill combo pieces. But with beavers we get a few looks. Requiting Hex could be useful depending on the matchup. But let's prioritize the combo. So I can Surveil and then Scry 1 perhaps. Maybe we're gonna win with damage, who knows. So our opponent green-white +1 counters with Innkeeper's Talent. Could always Splinter's Technique, get a card draw effect, since we don't know exactly what we're working towards yet. Or I can make a map to go exploring and hopefully find something that will give us some direction. Dream Thief is more likely to want to chum block in the future. And Mikey and Leo will immediately draw. Don't expect too many reach creatures out of this deck. That's a land. Yeah, that makes things a little tricky. I could Technique for a Technique just to pick up the beavers again and get a Scry. Maybe not the craziest idea. Any realistic way I'm winning with damage. I don't think so, especially if they at some point sheltered by ghosts. Requiting Hex does answer my key. You know what, maybe we are winning with damage. A Mutagen Man is fine. Still technically a 2-drop, which I could Hex. Alrighty, so yeah, let's get aggressive. Can Technique pick up the beavers. And then maybe I just go for another removal spell, like a Shredder's Technique, which I could also cast and still pay the ward. Although I also kind of want to just deal 3. So yeah, let's just let damage happen, replay the beavers, and then keep up Hex with the ward payment. And hope they don't have a Snakeskin Veil in hand to protect their creature. I'll level up the talents, okay. And then in response, try to Hex. So they don't get to draw. Take 7. Can go exploring. Keep that one on top. Attack. Sneak. Pay the ward. And drain for 1. Well, this was an unconventional game, to say the least. Ouroboros a little late to the party. Never forget. Alright, sweet. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. Missing our mill cards, but we have some enablers. Stock up to find some sneak cards and some interaction, so I'll give it a try. Can play Siren on 1. Opponent with their own flyer. And yeah, a deck with a lot of other flyers can make it tricky for us to sneak. But I guess the same is true in reverse. Opponent's gonna trajectory to take it out. And they are playing Esper, so maybe Esper Ninjas. Yep. Can immediately gain life. Okay, Swamp is useful, so now I could Beavers plus Hex. And keep the Technique on top. I mean, I could save the Hex and just play another Beavers for now, to make sure I can sneak past theirs. Yeah, that might be better. They'll get 1 attack in, and then next turn I can sneak plus Hex, and then I don't really care if I can't sneak for the rest of the game. They did not play this before attacking to grow Leonardo, so they have other plans. Maybe a Kaito. Yep. Alright, Kaito is Not great, but it's not going to stop us from sneaking. And then one beavers could go after Kaito, I suppose. So then I can also explore, and then next turn I can still stock up, plus maybe Hex. Donatello's technique isn't the worst. Assuming I can enable it. I'll try it. So this goes after Kaito, this goes face. And we want to pick this one up. So we get to have a look at their deck list. So now it's just a matter of finding the monument. Never underestimate my skills. Kaito already with 2 ninja emblems. And another beaver, so no sneaking allowed. Yeah, I guess the plan is attack Kaito and then just stock up Hex Leonardo. Don't know if attacking Kaito really makes a difference anymore. But if they take it, what happens? Just has to be unblocked. Doesn't care who it's attacking. I think I would rather keep this back. And then Kaito could -2 to tap it down, I suppose. Yeah, it's a close call. Let's try this anyway. Opponent lets it go. So then now I might be fine with drawing 2. And getting a few more scries in. And looking for the monuments. There it is. Alright, and then any reason to wait on hexing? Can maybe blight to gain more life. Kaito makes another emblem. And yeah, they had to shoot the sheriff, so we got rewarded for waiting, as we'll now get to gain 2 more life of the blight. So we need to survive 2 more attack steps. Can jump while we have the chance. Ooh, opponent's got another sneaky card. The last Ronin's technique. Yeah, that's gonna hurt. Making 3 tokens tapped and attacking. They're ninjas. And we fall to 1, so we are very much dead. Can stock up first, hit a land, still play the monument. Doesn't really matter. Can show it to them. So yeah, just needed 1 more turn. But the spirits got it done. Still an incredibly close game, and Dream Beavers will do the honors. GG's. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a promising hand, just missing our Kitsune's technique to mill half of their deck. Have 2 sneak enablers, and the Leyline on Mutant ×2. Fair enough. Any reason to shock myself? I don't think so. Say no to a Dream Thief. Don't expect too many of my flyers to get removed. So we get to technique, draw 2, replay the beavers. And there we have it. Alright, so we've got all the pieces in place. Might just want a bit more interaction. So do I monument or do I mill half of their deck already? I guess we mill half of their deck. That will also give us a bit more intel. Impact tremors, pyroclasm. So, yeah, there's a lot going on. For now, can replay the beavers. And I don't think we'll need another one. Stock up is fine. Do they have any artifact removal? As far as we can tell. Nope. So it should be safe to cast a monument. And then next turn exhaust. Alright, looks like we got there. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We have maybe one too many sneak enablers and not enough payoffs, but I'll give it a shot. Facing black-green, turn 1 elves. Don't have black mana for Requiting Hex. So Siren it is. Did draw the Kitsune Technique, so now we just need some more lanes and a monument, which we can tutor up with Splinter's Technique, and make sure our opponent doesn't win in the meantime, of course. And Junt Colors. And a Duress can now take the Hex, or perhaps one of our techniques. Alright, takes the mill card. And a Great Divide Guide is next. Did actually draw the monument. So now I think we just hex the guide. Play another Siren. And then next turn I could go exploring. Maybe after we surveil, just to hit a few more lane drops. Creature's fine. Drew a land. So then, how do we feel about Splinter's Technique, or do I just monument to get it in play before they can cast another Duress? So I don't waste a bunch of mana getting a card that they might make me discard. And then Surveil versus Map both digs a card deeper for our land, which is kind of what I'm looking for. Possible they have a sweeper. Still not quite sure what they're setting up. Let's go exploring. And Dream Beavers doesn't seem needed. Another Preacher. And drew the Technique. So now I just need to land 4 to eventually exhaust a monument. So could go exploring once again. Another Dream Beavers. I mean, it's probably worth it to try to mill them out already. And then if I top deck a land, we get there next turn. If not, I can try and find one with a Surveil and Map token, or I could even sneak to get it. But at least we're immune to a Duress. Found a Hex. So what's our sequencing? Maybe Dream Thief if there's a land on top, then I can use the map. If not, I'll have to use a technique to guarantee it. Which is not ideal, but should be able to survive the incoming attack still. And I can technique for maybe a blue source. I mean, can be another verge, I suppose. And then replace Siren. Seems better than hexing a Ladder Elves, but possible they're trying to cast some 7-drop. And then we're happy to chump. Fall to 6. And Igra, Eater of All. Alright, let's see if they can beat having an empty library. Can have a quick peek at what they're working with. Looks like a combo deck with a broadcast takeover, I see. So they were trying to Igra, turn everything into an artifact and then steal it. And didn't quite come together in time. Alright, sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have no flying creature to enable our techniques. So this one's a little sus. I can hex on 2, stock up on 3, find a creature, and then try and set up the technique on turn 5. It's pretty slow, but I do have interaction at least. I'll try it. Ideally find like a Siren on turn 2 that I get to play alongside maybe hexing. Cavern on human, so we should have some targets for the hex at least. For now, Leader's Talent. Alright, we find the Siren. I think I prefer it over stock up. And then I can still explore, look for lanes. Say no to a Dream Thief. Although they could have a 3-drop that I can no longer hex. Vendor is still good. See if they want to pay for it. Alright, and then I will hex it. And in fact, I can even hex with Blight, since I'm gonna pick up the Siren anyways. So I get to gain 2 life in the process. And we found the monument, so that's lucky. So now I get to attack, mill. And then replay Siren, since now it's all about just hitting our lane drops. Quick peek at their deck list. Uneasy Alliance, that's fine. Although sneaking in Donatello's technique could have helped. So does our opponent have an answer to the monument? This just exiles creatures. They do have disenchant. So since I'm not under any pressure, maybe I should wait. And then try and exhaust this in one go. We have the stock up. Can hex once again, blinding onto the Siren if needed. And grab a few lanes. Yeah, probably don't need to keep up hex this turn. April. That's acceptable. Find Splinter's technique. Yeah, we'll just, I guess, draw 2. And then Play a tap land, pass with Hex available. And in response, we can try this. Possible they have a way to protect it. They don't. Alright, let's see if they can somehow answer this. But yeah, I'm glad we waited, since we weren't really under any meaningful pressure. They did have multiple disenchants. And yeah, our opponent scoops it up, so Monument gets it done. Okay, we're on the play. We have 2 flying enablers and then a couple sneak cards. So sign me up. Start with a Siren. Next turn we can maybe draw 2, play Dream Thief. Although we already have everything we technically need except for lands. So that's where the technique can be helpful, to hit a few more land drops. Should probably specify Donatello's technique, since these are all technique cards. Alright, Requiting Hex, already have one. Don't think I'll need a second. It is an artifact deck. Definitely want to get rid of the robots before they make a bunch of tokens. So I think for now, hex the robots, that's non-negotiable. And then I could Splinter's Technique, get the Monument, or I can just go Siren Explore. It's a bit less mana efficient though. Could also just mill half of their deck. I don't think we get punished for it in any way. And then I could just draw the Monument, so that saves me from having to tutor it up. So yeah, a Jeskai artifact deck with plenty of affinity payoffs. And the Emissary is problematic, since that makes a bunch of flyers, making it harder to sneak. So I'm pretty happy that I milled while I got the chance. Well, we just drew the Monument, otherwise I would have hardcast a technique to find it. Now, does our opponent have any way of removing my artifact? Doesn't look like it, so should be safe to play it out. And then next turn we can mill them out. Otherwise I would have maybe waited to play and exhaust in the same turn. But yeah, a deck that can produce some flying blockers can definitely cause some problems. And there we go. Pass a turn, and our opponent explodes. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Our hand's got potential if Spyglass survives, that is. Our opponent on a Ninja's deck, and we drew the Monument. So yeah, first chance I get, I can sneak to mill half their deck. This doesn't fly, so yeah. Now it's just a matter of playing and exhausting the Monument, which we can do over the course of the next 2 turns. So unless they can deal 19 damage in the meantime, we should be alright. Opponent on an Esper Ninja deck. Some honorary ninjas as well. Alright, this will make 3 1/1s. Yeah, I'm probably gonna need to find removal for Shredder. Or else I'm probably not gonna survive 2 more turns, although I guess I really just need to survive 1 more attack. So 6, 7. If they have Splinter to pump their ninjas, then let's see, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then I'll need to draw a painless land. But I think this is still my play. I mean, this was pretty much the fastest our deck is capable of comboing someone out. We were on the draw, admittedly. I guess they also have to pick up a creature, but they also get to pump Super Shredder. It's another technique. We're at 3, so I can afford to take 2 of my Multiversal Passage. Yeah, they don't make games much closer. Can our opponent deal 1 in their upkeep somehow? I doubt it. And there we go, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a very promising hand. We've got our turn 2 Technique, and then Monument in hand already. So just need to get 4 lands in play to exhaust. Opponent does have black mana, but no Hex. So yeah, let's not waste any time and make sure we Technique while the coast is clear. And hope our opponent doesn't make use of their graveyard in a meaningful way. So some sort of Mardu aggro deck. Well, there is an Avenger of the Fallen, so that could backfire. There's Helping Hand as well. Alright, so yeah, we could get punished here. And the terrible 2s can be a way of punishing sneak cards. That being said, I can play Monuments, and then maybe just play the Beavers as opposed to playing a removal spell to ensure that I find a land. Can maybe start there, and then maybe reassess. Don't need another Monument. Could also still just explore, but I mean, Monument seems to have the highest upside, unless they have some way to remove my artifact, not that I can see. Alright, so if I draw the land, we could get them next turn. If not, we have a few ways to try and find a 4th land. They are going through the graveyard, so this might be a Helping Hand to get back an Avenger of the Fallen, which has Mobilize X, where X is a number of creature cards in your graveyard. So that would be pretty funny to see, not gonna lie. And Dewdrop Cure. Going for a bunch of cheaper creatures instead, but they drew us into the lane, so we would have gotten there regardless. Alright, I'll take it. Turn 4, mill you out. And that'll do it. Alright, so yeah, we got to see this sneaky mill deck in action, and I thought the deck was going to be very janky. And while I still don't think it's going to be particularly competitive once you move onto the ranked ladder, we did get some pretty impressive wins, and it doesn't take a whole lot of setup to mill someone out around turn 4. So yeah, I think the deck has potential. There's still quite a few flex slots. I wasn't sure how many stock-ups I wanted, how many of the sneak cards, and whether or not to run the full set of tutor effects. But yeah, the core of the deck of at least 10 flying creatures and then a bunch of sneak cards and some interaction is probably a good foundation for this archetype. So yeah, for now, I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.